Mr. Extra from Team Extra. So I figured that I would go ahead and, after like testing with lightsworn for a little bit since it came out with the new support anyways, I figure I'd go ahead and make a list of like pros and cons, builds you can play, what's been optimal, what hasn't been optimal, stuff like that, guys. Stuff like that. So I figured I'd sit down and talk a little bit about that. Alright, so I've seen a couple different versions of lightsworn, and I've tested a couple different versions of lightsworn. I got a couple different pieces in this like list right here. These are just things I'm going to go over and talk about and explain like what seems to be good, what seems to be not good, so on and so on. Okay, so first let's talk about like the danger stuff, right? Danger stuff is first on the list. I've seen like a build or two for like lightsworn where they use the danger cards to try to like, you know, for draw power, rank 8s, you know, stuff like that, do some saucy stuff, right? I haven't really seen any like topping lists or anything like that. I haven't tested this personally myself. Typically people play the danger version when they were playing tier, but that was also when tier had all their names at 3. And, you know, Kid Callus was still around, right, guys? So, you know, I don't really understand that one personally. If you're on a budget, yeah, sure. But if a budget doesn't matter, then I suggest not doing the danger cards because I feel like they'd just be too bricky for like what you're trying to do with the deck. Because you're trying to mill with the deck. You're trying to mill, get last ones in the graveyard, set up board, set up enlightenment, set up a bunch of follow up. Whether you do the version that ends on Appaloosa with 4 mats, or you do the version that ends up with like Little Knight, IP, Peter, Enlightenment, Crystal Wing, whatever. You know, it's a dealer's choice. So, danger stuff, I don't really know too much about that version, but I mean, it seems cool if you're on the budget. So, next we're actually going to cover the Horus stuff. So, I have one of each of the Horus names here. I'll explain pros and cons. I also got the King Sark, Field Spell, and Canopic. So, I personally play the Horus version. I play like a Horus Bestial version. You know, you see the Bestials here. We'll cover all that. We'll cover the Malicious and everything. And then, you know, Winda, Peter, and the Tearlaments cards. So far in testing with the Horus version, and just to get, I have like actual statistics here for you guys. So I've played the Horus Bestial version for lightsworn 2 weeks in a row at locals, right? My locals is moderately competitive. Like, there's some rogue, but I mean, mostly fire, voiceless, stun, you know, dealer's choice. And so far, for the last 2 tournaments, which are 5 rounds each, I won the first tournament, going 5-0 with like Horus Bestial lightsworn, and then the second tournament, I lost in the finals and got second. So out of 10 matches, consistency-wise was really good, but out of 10 matches, I took 1 actual loss. So 90% is pretty good. It was some good data to like help make this video actually to move forward, explain more, and you know, think about your different lines or whatever you can do with this. But if you're doing the Horus stuff, you have options, right? Because you need to have the 3 I'm SETI, you need to have at least the Happy, and then like your King Sarks, you can run King Sark at 2, I'm SETI at 3, I'm SETI at 3, King Sark at 3, I'm SETI at 2, King Sark at 3. It all depends on like what your budget is, right? And I know, like lightsworn support has been out that long, but I've been testing this build for like probably 2 months. Anyways, but so if you want to play like the skinniest version possible for like Horus, you would just play the 3 I'm SETI, the 1 Happy, and then the 3 King Sark. You don't need Canopic. Canopic is if you're wanting to broaden your horizons, but you know, when you broaden your horizons with like Canopic and then Imperial Tomb, you have to run more Horuses, which can become bricky. Imperial Tomb is pretty cool, right? Which, I mean, I was playing this in 1-up. I'm probably going to end up cutting it. I've been trying to refine my list and everything. But Imperial Tomb is pretty cool when you are milling to do your lightsworn plays, but let's say you mill your King Sarks, but you mill your Horus monsters, and you got the Terraforming, which I didn't play, but if you have Imperial Tomb, and then you put it out, you can still get your Horus bodies to the field. But, like, Canopic, realistically, if you're doing a Horus package, you don't have to play that. Field spell's optional. Protector and Dwamatef is only if you want the extra bodies for extra, let's just say XYZ lines or Crimson Dragon lines, whatever you want to get into, realistically. But primarily, you can just take these two out altogether, take this out, and you can probably take out Imperial Tomb as well, as long as you can get into your Kingsark line. So, we've covered Danger, we've covered Horus. Let's talk about, we'll do Tier last because I have a lot to say about Tier. Let's go over the Bestial package for this. So far my testing with Bestials with this, it has been great. Bestials are amazing. Regain is a good card still. You don't need to play Beast because Beast is just going to end up being a brick unless you end up milling your Regain, which if you're playing Shufflers, you can shuffle it back, get it again. There's a lot of factor trees where lead you into the same route, right? So typically, you play your standard package of like 3 Lebellion, a Juris Worm, a Magdama, and a Sarnier. You can play double Sarnier because Sarnier does some heavy lifting into one, thinning out your deck. If you already have Lebellion access, you can just pitch another one in graveyard so you don't draw another one. Or 2, getting your Lebellion in graveyard because you don't have one, and then you just happen to have like a Juris Worm or something. Or even your Chaos Dragon Levineer, which I actually should. And I'll go over that package too because that package has been really good as well. But Bestials overall have been pretty good. Plus, with Bestials, you get access to Peter. Peter's a very good card, especially if you're trying to run the version of Lightsworn where you're doing the Omega Loop. Or you hand rip for 4 if you do it correctly. That depends if you can make a Omega Loop early and then get into Chaos Space plus Regain. It's really cool. So, covered the Bestials. Let's go over Malicious real quick. So, Malicious is back at 3, which gives you additional choices for like bodies, rank 6 plays, Beatrice, whatever factor lines you want to go into. It can kind of help you make Wenda, depending if that's the route you want to go. Realistically, that's a dealer's choice. If you're playing the tier variant, you're more likely to play Malicious just because it'll get you into like other interesting lines, interesting plays for a better setup. But when it comes to like the tier version or the Horus version or Abyssals or anything like that, it's all preference at the end of the day, guys. Like, you can play this deck on a huge budget if you want, but the main deck can be super budget, but your extra deck for this deck is almost always going to be a little pricey if you want to, optimize your extra deck and it be really good moving forward and fix your hands and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and talk about the tier cards real quick. I wanted to kind of talk about them last, but let's get out of the way. So the tier cards, the reason why, and a lot of people want to play the tier cards for this. I'm more or less against it mainly. This is opinionated, so the reason why I don't think the tier cards are amazing for this is, like, if they were all at 3, I'd be playing it. That should tell you a lot. I hate tier. Anyone who knows me, I don't like that deck. I don't like Tearlaments. I think they suck. Like, it was not a fun deck, but with them at 1, you're basically running a brick. So your morale will end up being a brick because you gotta mill it just to gain anything off it. And even then, what are you making? You're gonna make your Kaleido Heart or your Kalos and then play King of the Swamp, which you're playing a bunch of bricks just to make one of these 2 cards, or to make the window with your Shadow Beast, which is cool, but let's say they don't need to out the window, and then they out it on your turn when they're ready to, when you go into battle phase, just so you waste your battle phase or something. There's a lot of little factors behind it, plus an imperm will easily out this card. But Morale being at 1, Havness being at 1, and Sharon being at 1, or Sharon, I feel like it's just a consistency issue. You want to see these cards at 3-up, so it'd be better if they were at 3-up to play it with this build, but realistically, if you're going with more of the like fusion approach, it makes more sense, but that's not the version I run personally. And then, Scream's pretty cool. It'll get some mills, but you also got to keep one of the tiers on board to even profit off that. Paralino's great too, but I mean, you're just going to search for one of your 1-ups. In worst case scenario, if you go Paralino, get hit by a droll, it's going to kind of suck here on out because then all your charge or light brigades are dead because you wanted to search for your Havness rather than doing charge first. But Reno Heart's still at 3. I mean, I don't know how much that's going to help you. Reno Heart's about as cool as whatever, but still dealer's choice. And lastly, we can cover the Runick version of this deck. I've seen a Runick build going around. So Runick lightsworn, I looked at the build. The build is interesting, but the problem is like you got a bunch of mill factor and everything, and you can do like fountain cycle and stuff like that. But the big issue is, what if you mill all these cards, right? You set it up and then they get rid of the fountain. Then the deck dies because it's a Runick deck. Runick decks die when fountain gets hit with cosmic. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you'd be running just a bunch of Runick spells and then a lightsworn engine, and then your aim board's going to be suboptimal because you're relying on your fountain, and then they just ghost over the fountain, which you could protect that, but cosmic cycling you can't. So, I mean, this is all really opinionated. While I'm talking about this, let's talk about Leveneer, Chaos Space, and Seyfert. So, I like to talk about that because this is what you'd consider the Chaos package. No, black and white's not great for this because you can brick on black and white. And why run more bricks in a deck that wants to mill? Because, like, you can essentially always have black online, but at the same time, like, you don't want to banish, like, every lightsworn that goes to the graveyard. You're going to end up doing that anyways with Athena. So you're going to take away from your end board. Leveneer is really good here for multiple reasons because you're almost always going to be able to do either of the effect. I like personally using Leveneer to either clear a field when I need to going second, or I will do it going first into the Omega Loop, and then I'll banish 3 dark, and then shuffle one of the cards in their hand away, so they start with one less piece in their hand. Now, Chaos Space, I 100% recommend with this deck, even if you are not playing Leveneer, because Chaos Space can search for Lebellion, Chaos Space can search for Punishment, Chaos Space can search for Judgment, Chaos Space can search for a lot of stuff. Seyfert here is a second Chaos Space as well, so I mean, if you're going with like that variant, it would work. Like, I've been playing 2 Seyfert since the deck came out, or since the new support, and since I've been able to play at locals, and it's been great. Nothing's funnier than milling Seyfert, and then milling like a Judgment and a Punishment, and then you pull your Judgment back, and then you do your plays, then you set up to where you can summon the Judgment, and then you get a free Enlightenment because Punishment's already engraved, because that's the only requirements. One engraved, one on field, or both on field. Real simple. But, I mean, I don't have too much else to go over with this. I might go in depth with lines and combos for this video, or, well, for this deck, like, my thought process about it, because, like, a lot of the end boards I can make with this is crazy. It just depends on the amount of interruption your opponent has. And, you know, if they have Shifter, the deck dies, but it's a graveyard mill deck. What do you expect? Shifter will shut it off, Dimensional, DDG will shut it off, Dimensional, different Dimension Ground will do it too, but, I mean, sometimes you just gotta have the out, sometimes you don't. That being said, that's all I got for right now. I hope this was a informative video for people who are interested in playing Lightsworn. You can play this deck 100% on a budget. If you are going to play this deck on a budget, play the tier cards, play Malicious. Abyssals are not very expensive. You could also play that. And the Chaos package is dirt cheap between Chaos Space, Seyfert, and Leveneer. Only downside is if you're playing Abyssals, you need to play Peter for it to be really, really good. And Peter's $60. But if you're going full budget, play tier cards, play Wenda, play the tier fusions, just win the lock people. Omega rip their hand, set up a bunch of stuff. You can set up Wallow, you can do Beatrice. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do. Hell, if you wanted to, you could literally Mayakashi lock your opponent with the Beatrice and then dump a rollback and dump the Mayakashi lock. Like, it is whatever you want it to be, basically. Hope that's helpful. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. As always, there will be more content as usual. Locals on Saturday. I'm either playing Lightsworn or Tempai. I haven't decided yet. But, yeah, thanks for watching.